My name is Jake. I'm 27, and for as long as I can remember, my family has made it painfully clear that my younger brother, Ryan, is their favorite. He's 24, unemployed, still living at home, and has somehow convinced my parents that he's entitled to anything and everything he wants, especially if it belongs to me. Growing up, it was always the same story. I'd work hard for something and Ryan would just get a free pass. If I saved up for a new gaming console, my parents would guilt trip me into letting him use it whenever he wanted. If I got good grades, my mom would say, well, Ryan just isn't as naturally academic as you, so we don't expect the same from him. If I did chores, my dad would excuse Ryan by saying he'll do them later. Spoiler, he never did. At some point, I stopped fighting it. I moved out at 22, got my own place, and focused on building my life. I worked my way up in my job, and just recently, I decided to buy myself a brand new car, something I'd been saving up for years. It was a big moment for me, something I was really proud of. I didn't come from money, and every dollar that went into this purchase was one I had earned. The moment my parents found out, though, I should have known what was coming. It started with a casual text from my mom. Mom texted, "Hey sweetie, heard you got a new car. That's amazing. What are you planning to do with your old one?" The question itself wasn't suspicious. My old car was still in great condition, low mileage, well-maintained, and honestly, something I could have sold for a decent amount of money. But something about the way she worded it put me on edge. I hesitated before responding. Me, not sure yet. Why? The reply came almost instantly. Mom, well, Ryan doesn't have a car, and you know how hard things have been for him. We thought it would be a wonderful gesture if you gave it to him. There it was. I should have expected it, really. I could practically hear her voice in my head, the same tone she used whenever she tried to make it sound like she was just suggesting something when, in reality, she was laying down an expectation. I took a deep breath, already feeling the familiar frustration bubbling up. Mom, Ryan doesn't have a car because he doesn't have a job. He doesn't even need one. And I was planning on donating it. I had been thinking about it for a while. There was a local charity that helped single parents get reliable transportation, and it felt like a good cause, something I actually wanted to do. But as soon as I hit send, I realized I had made a mistake. The phone rang almost immediately. It was my mom. I sighed and answered. Hey, Jake, she started, her voice already laced with disappointment. You can't be serious. Donating it? To strangers? When your own brother needs it? I rolled my eyes. Mom, Ryan doesn't need it. He doesn't go anywhere. And I already made my decision. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. I cannot believe this. After everything we've done for you, you'd rather throw it away than help your own family? I clenched my jaw. Throwing it away? I'm giving it to people who actually need it, Mom. If Ryan really wanted a car, maybe he could get a job and she cut me off. Jake, that is so cruel. You know Ryan struggles with motivation. He's had such a hard time lately. Ryan's hard time was that he didn't like working. He had bounced between a few jobs in the past, but he never stuck with anything longer than a few months. Meanwhile, my parents bent over backward to make sure he never actually needed to. I kept my voice calm, but I let a bit of sarcasm slip in. Right. A hard time sleeping in until noon and playing video games all day. Sounds rough. There was a beat of silence before she huffed. I don't know what's happened to you, Jake. You used to be such a good son. Ah, there it was. The guilt trip. The same old script. I guess I just got tired of being the backup plan for Ryan's laziness, I said evenly. Before she could respond, I added, look, I'm not changing my mind. The car's already been donated. If Ryan wants something, he can earn it like the rest of us. I hung up before she could launch into another tirade. I barely had time to breathe before my phone started buzzing again, this time from Ryan. I debated ignoring it, but I knew he wouldn't stop. With a sigh, I picked up. You're such a selfish piece of, hey, Ryan, I interrupted, my tone flat. Let's skip the insults. What do you want? He scoffed. You know what I want. Mom just told me what you did. You gave away a perfectly good car? Are you insane? I rubbed my temples. Ryan, you didn't own that car. I did. And I can do whatever I want with my own property. Yeah, but you knew I needed it, he snapped. I let out a short laugh. Ryan, you don't even leave the house. Maybe I would if I had a car, he shot back. Or, I said, dragging the word out, maybe if you had a car, it would just sit in the driveway while you kept mooching off Mom and Dad. The silence that followed told me I had hit a nerve. You're such an ungrateful fool, he finally said, voice dripping with anger. After everything our parents have done for you, I sighed. Ryan, this conversation is over. And just like that, I hung up again. I knew it wasn't really over, though, because within the hour, I started getting notifications. Ryan had taken to social media, airing out his grievances. He wrote this long, whiny post about how families should take care of each other and how some people just care about themselves. He didn't mention me by name, but it was painfully obvious who he was talking about. And of course, our extended family got involved. A few cousins and an aunt even jumped in, agreeing with him and calling me selfish. But then, something unexpected happened. A few people started siding with me, and that's when things really started to spiral out of control. At first, I ignored the notifications. I had already made my decision, and I wasn't about to let Ryan's temper tantrum drag me into some ridiculous online drama. But then, I started seeing the comments. Cousin Mark commented, "Wait, so your brother worked hard, bought a new car, and donated his old one to people in need, and you're mad?" Uncle Dave commented, "Ryan, maybe you should try earning something for yourself instead of expecting handouts." Family friend Karen commented, "I don't understand why you think you're entitled to his car." It was glorious. Ryan had clearly expected everyone to blindly take his side, but he didn't anticipate people actually using common sense. I could almost picture him sitting in his room, fuming as he realized his little pity party wasn't going the way he planned. Of course, my parents weren't going to let this go either. A few hours later, I got a call from my dad. Unlike my mom, he rarely got involved in these kinds of things, which told me they were pulling out the big guns. I sighed and answered, "Hey, Dad." There was a long pause before he spoke, his voice calm but heavy. "Jake, I really wish you'd reconsider what you've done." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Reconsider what, exactly?" "You know what," he said. "This whole thing. It's humiliating your brother." I almost laughed. Humiliating him? Dad, he did that to himself. He put all this on social media thinking people would defend him. Dad sighed. "That's not the point. Your mother is really upset. This whole situation is making us look bad." Ah, there it was. It wasn't about Ryan struggling. It wasn't about family values. It was about appearances. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You don't care that Ryan's throwing a tantrum over a car that was never his. You don't care that he refuses to get a job or do anything for himself. You only care that people are seeing how entitled he is." Dad hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. "It's not that simple, Jake." "It is that simple," I said, my voice sharper now. "For once, I didn't roll over and let Ryan take something from me, and you don't know how to handle it." There was another long silence. Then he sighed. "I really hoped you'd be better than this." I blinked. "Better than what?" "You're acting spiteful," he said. "Giving the car to charity instead of your own brother. How does that make sense? It just feels like you did it to make a point." I let out a humorless laugh. "I didn't do it to make a point. I did it because I wanted to help people who actually needed it. But now that you mention it, yeah, I'd rather have set the damn thing on fire than hand it over to Ryan." His voice dropped into a warning tone. "Jake." "No," I interrupted. "I'm done. I'm done being the backup plan whenever Ryan doesn't want to put in effort. I'm done with the guilt trips. And I'm definitely done with this idea that I somehow owe him just because you guys decided he's more important than me." Dad's voice was cold now. "That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about?" I challenged. He didn't answer right away. I could hear the tension in his breathing. Finally, he said, "You're making a mistake." I scoffed. "You know what, Dad? If this is a mistake, then it's the first one I don't regret." And I hung up. I felt the weight lift off my shoulders almost immediately. But the storm wasn't over yet, because the next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages. From my parents, from relatives, even from some people I barely spoke to anymore. And then I saw it. Ryan had escalated things. He hadn't just made another whiny post. No, this time he had gone all out. He had written a massive post claiming I had stolen the car from him. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Stolen? Was he serious? I clicked on the post, and sure enough, Ryan had gone full victim mode. I never thought my own brother would betray me like this. He knew I needed a car. He knew our parents wanted me to have it. But instead of helping his family, he selfishly gave it away, probably just to spite me. And get this, he didn't even tell me. He just snuck off and did it behind my back. I was relying on that car. I needed it. But I guess some people only care about themselves. Family is supposed to look out for each other, but I guess that only applies when he wants something. I'm done being treated like I don't matter. It had hundreds of likes and comments, and some of them were actually siding with him. I'll read some of them. Aunt Linda, wow, that's low. Family should always come first. Grandma Nancy, so disappointing. Jake, your parents raised you better than this. Some random girl from high school, oh my God, that's so messed up. I'd be devastated. But then there were people calling him out. Cousin Mark, again, MVP, wait, wait, wait. So your brother stole a car that was already his? Bro, that's not how this works. Uncle Dave, also a legend. So let me get this straight. You expected a free car, didn't get it, and now you're trying to make Jake the bad guy? Entitlement at its finest. Family friend Karen, bless her heart. Ryan, if you needed a car so badly, why didn't you just save up and buy one like your brother did? I snorted. At least some people had common sense. But that didn't change the fact that half my family was turning against me. Before I could even decide how to respond, my phone started ringing again. My mom. I groaned and let it go to voicemail. Then another call came in. My dad. Then a text from my aunt. Then another from my cousin. It was nonstop. I had barely gotten out of bed, and they were already trying to wear me down. After ignoring several more calls, I finally opened my family group chat, only to see absolute chaos. Mom texted, Jake, answer your phone. Aunt Linda texted, this is disgusting behavior. I can't believe you'd treat Ryan this way. Grandma texted, you need to fix this before you tear the family apart. Ryan texted, thanks a lot, Jake. Hope you're happy. I sighed. So this is how it's going to be. Fine. I cracked my knuckles and started typing. I replied, just to clarify, the car was mine. I paid for it, insured it, and maintained it with my own money. I decided to donate it because I wanted to help people who actually needed it. At no point was it Ryan's car. He just expected me to give it to him for free. That's called entitlement. I hit send. Mom responded almost instantly. Jake, stop making this worse. I rolled my eyes. Worse for who? Aunt Linda jumped in. Well, so you'd rather give to strangers than your own brother? I replied, yes, because strangers don't treat me like a walking ATM. Cousin Mark, absolute legend, reacted with a crying laughing emoji. Ryan, of course, had to get the last word in. Enjoy being the selfish disappointment of the family, Jake. I chuckled to myself. Oh, he wanted to play this game? Time to turn up the heat. I went to Ryan's post, left a comment, and wrote, wait, Ryan, remind me again how I stole a car that was never yours? And then I logged out. Within minutes, my phone was blowing up again. Let them scream. Because I wasn't backing down. I took a deep breath and tossed my phone onto the couch. I needed to get out of the house. It was one thing to ignore a few passive-aggressive comments, but now my family had gone into full meltdown mode over something that wasn't even theirs. The entitlement was suffocating. And the worst part? The car was still sitting in my driveway. At that moment, I made my decision. I was giving it away. Today. Not to spite them. Not as a power move. But because I had been thinking about doing this for a while. And no amount of guilt-tripping or tantrums was going to change my mind. I grabbed my keys, walked outside, and stared at my old car. It was still in great shape. I had taken care of it, regular maintenance, new tires, even a deep clean before I started using my new car. And Ryan thought he could just claim it? Like some kind of reward for doing absolutely nothing? Yeah, no. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and headed toward a local charity that specialized in helping struggling families get reliable transportation. As I drove, I couldn't help but think about all the times Ryan had expected things to just be handed to him. He had always been the golden child, the one my parents bent over backward for. When we were kids, if he broke something, I got blamed. If he wanted something expensive, our parents found a way to get it for him. If I wanted something, I was told to earn it. I used to be bitter about it, but now, I just felt done. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the charity's lot. A woman in her 40s, wearing a blue staff shirt, stepped outside as I parked. Hey there, can I help you? I smiled. Yeah, actually, I'd like to donate my car. Her eyes widened. Really? I nodded. Yeah, it's in great shape. All the paperwork's up to date, and I just got new tires put on. I figured someone else might need it more than me. She was shocked. People donated cars, sure, but not usually ones in this good condition. Well, she said, regaining her composure, that's incredible. We actually have a single mom on our list who's been waiting for something like this. She works 2 jobs and takes the bus everywhere. This would change her life. I grinned. Then it's hers. We handled the paperwork, and within half an hour, it was official. The car was no longer mine. And more importantly, it was never going to be Ryan's. As I took one last look at it before leaving, I could already picture my family absolutely losing their minds when they found out. I got back in my new car, took a deep breath, and started driving home. And then, because I knew exactly how this was going to go down, I pulled out my phone and snapped a quick picture of the signed donation form. Because when the storm hit, I was going to be ready. By the time I got home, the sun was beginning to set, casting a soft orange glow over the neighborhood. The car I had just donated was now a distant memory, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, mixed with a touch of guilt. I knew my family wasn't going to take this well. It wasn't just about the car. It was about the principle, how they believed I should always be the one to give, while they took and expected more from me. I pulled into my driveway and sat there for a moment, trying to calm myself before stepping inside. It was only a matter of time before they showed up. I barely had time to close the door behind me when I heard the familiar sound of someone knocking. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. I knew exactly who it was. I walked over to the door and peeked through the window, and sure enough, there stood my mom, dad, and Ryan, their faces a mix of confusion and irritation. They didn't even knock again. It was more like an impatient hammering at the door, like they were expecting to burst through any second. I shook my head. Opening the door, I put on my best calm smile. Hey, what's up? Ryan was the first to speak, his voice laced with frustration. Jake, come on. You didn't actually give the car away, did you? I crossed my arms. Yeah, I did. My mom's face instantly turned red. What? You're kidding, right? You didn't even tell us you were thinking about doing that. That car was supposed to go to Ryan. I shrugged. It wasn't his car. It was mine. I paid for it. I made the decision to donate it. I think someone else could benefit more from it. You think? My dad snapped. It's not about what you think, Jake. It was the right thing to give it to your brother. It was supposed to be his, Jake. You know that. Ryan, who had been standing behind my parents, took a step forward, his hands on his hips. Yeah, Jake. That's how it works. You're supposed to help your family out. We've always had your back. So why can't you just help me for once? My mom nodded, looking me in the eyes, trying to make me feel guilty. You know Ryan's been struggling, right? You know how hard it's been for him to get his life together. And instead of helping him, you went and gave it to strangers. I wasn't about to back down. Not this time. I'm sorry, but Ryan's problems aren't my responsibility. I didn't ask for this kind of responsibility, and I'm not going to keep sacrificing my life for people who think everything should just be handed to them. It's his life, not mine. Ryan's face flushed bright red. You have no idea what it's like to be me, Jake. You've never been in my shoes. I need that car. Well, Ryan, I said, leaning against the door frame with a calmness I didn't even know I had. Maybe you should try working for it. Just like I did. My dad shook his head. That's not fair. You're supposed to be a family. Why can't you just help him out? I can't believe you'd do something so cold. I felt my jaw clench. I did help. I paid for that car. I could have just sold it for a couple grand. But instead, I donated it to someone who actually needs it. Someone who doesn't think the world owes them a free ride. There was a moment of silence, the tension hanging thick in the air. Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked like he was about to explode, but instead, he just stood there, glaring at me. You're unbelievable, he finally spat. I can't believe you'd do this to me. After everything our parents have done for you. You're nothing but a selfish jerk. I took a deep breath and looked at them all, my parents, my brother, who had always expected things to be handed to him. I realized in that moment that they had been making me feel guilty for so long, as though I owed them something. And I didn't. I didn't owe them a thing. This isn't about you, Ryan. Or you, Mom and Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This is about me finally doing what I wanted to do. I don't owe anyone my time, my money, or my resources anymore. I made a choice, and it wasn't to cater to anyone's expectations. If you can't accept that, then, well, I guess we'll just have to leave it at that. Ryan's eyes flared with anger. This isn't over, Jake. You'll regret this. I'm going to tell everyone what you did. You'll see. I didn't flinch. Go ahead, I said, my voice laced with sarcasm. Tell everyone I gave a car to someone who needed it more. I'm sure they'll be so mad. With that, I took a step back and started closing the door. But my mom put her hand out, blocking the door. Jake, don't you dare, she said through gritted teeth. I looked at her, unamused. Mom, this is done. You've had your chance to be part of my life on my terms. But this is my decision, and you're not going to bully me into changing it. Her hand dropped from the door, and she looked defeated. I don't know who you are anymore, she muttered. I closed the door softly but firmly, locking it behind me. As I leaned against the door, I could feel my heart racing, my pulse hammering in my ears. I knew this wasn't the end. There was no way they were just going to let this slide. But for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. Sure, I was expecting the fallout, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. I had made a choice for me, a choice that didn't involve constantly sacrificing myself for people who felt entitled to everything I had worked for. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just existing in their expectations. I was living on my terms. But as the hours passed, the weight of the situation started to settle in. I couldn't stop thinking, did I make the right decision? Did I overstep? Was I too harsh? Or was I finally standing up for myself after years of feeling like I owed everyone everything? What do you all think? Was I right to give the car away to someone who truly needed it? Or should I have just handed it over to Ryan and kept the peace? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.